The U.S. takes out another drug smuggling boat in the Caribbean. A Republican announces her candidacy for New York governor. And Vietnam moves to thwart China's dominance in the South China Sea. I'm Georgia Howe with Daily Wire Executive Editor John Bickley. It's Friday, November 7th, and this is Evening Wire.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is presenting what he calls a simple compromise to end the government shutdown. Daily Wire congressional reporter Amber Jo Cooper has the details.
Chuck Schumer said that Democrats would reopen the government and pass the continuing resolution, but they want to add a one-year extension on the Affordable Care Act premium tax credits, which are set to expire at the end of the year. He said that the goal would be to immediately address the rising healthcare costs and then offered to create a bipartisan committee that would continue negotiations after the government reopens on reforms ahead of next year's enrollment period for Obamacare. There was a bipartisan bill in the House to do a one-year extension on ACA subsidies, and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said that it was not acceptable and he wanted a permanent extension. Here's what Chuck Schumer had to say on the floor today.
With this approach, we do not negotiate health care in the shutdown, as Leader Thune has maintained he wishes. And the American people get the tax credit extension they want. That is what many of our Republican colleagues have floated over the last 6 weeks as a compromise. A one-year tax credit extension and reforms to the credit beyond that.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune's comms director said on X that cracks are forming and that extending the COVID bonuses is the negotiation and something that can only take place after the government reopens. Thune reportedly told reporters today that the offer was a non-starter, so for now, the shutdown continues.
The U.S. has taken out more drug smuggling pirates in the Caribbean, executing the 17th strike of its kind in recent weeks. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth confirmed the operation, saying the drug smuggling boat operated by a designated terrorist organization was obliterated Thursday, killing 3 suspected narco-terrorists. Hegseth released a video of the explosion and warned traffickers to stop poisoning Americans or die trying. Democrats call the strikes unconstitutional, but Republicans are hailing them as saving lives and keeping deadly drugs off U.S. streets.
In what's being called a big win against the gender identity movement, the Supreme Court ruled that the Trump administration can require Americans to mark their biological sex on passports. Daily Wire reporter Zach Jewell has more.
In a 6-3 opinion Thursday, the High Court froze a lower court's order that stopped the Trump administration from enforcing the passport gender policy. The court's ruling was not a final decision on the case, but the majority of justices agreed that the Trump administration is likely to succeed on the merits of the case. The majority argued, quote, displaying passport holders' sex at birth no more offends equal protection principles than displaying their country of birth. In both cases, the government is merely attesting to a historical fact without subjecting anyone to differential treatment. And on this record, respondents have failed to establish that the government's choice to display biological sex lacks any purpose other than a bare desire to harm a politically unpopular group. The 3 liberal justices dissented, with Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson claiming, quote, the plaintiffs will be subject to imminent concrete injury if the policy goes into effect.
New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik has officially tossed her hat into the ring for governor of New York. Daily Wire political reporter Cameron Arcand has the latest.
In her announcement video, Stefanik paints a bleak picture of New York under Democratic rule and how she says New York can, quote, rise from the ashes.
Elise Stefanik will clean up Kathy Hochul's catastrophe and restore New York's greatness. Elise Stefanik for governor. It's time to save New York.
Stefanik promises to restore New York's greatness, cut costs for working families, and back law enforcement, saying, quote, the spirit of the Empire State cannot be broken. All we need is a courageous leader ready for the fight. Republican Party leaders are already rallying behind Stefanik, calling her, quote, the warrior New York needs to take back Albany after 2 decades of Democratic control. If she wins, she would be New York's first Republican governor since 2006 and the first woman from the GOP to lead the Empire State. Here she is on Fox and Friends this morning.
After this week, when we saw a raging anti-Semite, pro-Hamas communist who wants to raise taxes, and frankly, he barely won the majority of New York City voters, Kathy Hochul endorsed him and bent the knee. She has failed New Yorkers. So this is a broad coalition of Republicans, independents, and Democrats who know that enough is enough. We need common sense leadership to make New York affordable and safe again.
A Montana City Commissioner candidate who went viral for a profanity-filled voicemail to Senator Tim Sheehy was just rejected at the polls. Here's what she said in that voicemail.
Hi, this is Haley McKnight. I'm a constituent in Helena, Montana, and I just wanted to let you know that you are the most insufferable kind of coward and thief. You just stripped away health care for 17 million Americans, and I hope you're really proud of that. I hope that one day you get pancreatic cancer and it spreads throughout your body so fast that they can't even treat you for it. I hope that you die in the street like a dog.
Haley McKnight finished a distant third with just 20% of the vote. The voicemail, recorded after Sheehy backed a GOP spending bill, sparked national outrage when it resurfaced last week. McKnight refused to apologize, calling her outrage justified. Meanwhile, voters clearly disagreed, ending her campaign in a dramatic fashion.
President Trump announced this week that he's reached deals with major pharmaceutical companies to lower the costs of popular weight loss drugs. Daily Wire reporter Amanda Prestigiacomo has the story.
The president said Thursday that pharma companies Eli Lilly, which makes Zepbound, and Novo Nordisk, which makes Wegovy and Ozempic, they've agreed to lower prices of their drugs to the tune of hundreds of dollars. And notably, Ozempic is primarily a type 2 diabetes medication, but it's often prescribed off-label for weight loss. Now, monthly out-of-pocket costs for the drugs will range from $50 to $350, depending on a person's dosage and insurance coverage. The drugs currently cost at least $1,000 a month. Medicare patients will cover a $50 copay each month for the injectable drugs, no matter if the medications are being used for obesity or diabetes. Through Trump's direct-to-consumer government website called TrumpRx, Americans will pay $350 a month for Wegovy, Zepbound, or Ozempic. Additionally, the cost is expected to soon drop to $240 a month, according to the administration.
An Obama-appointed judge has ordered the Trump administration to fully fund food assistance payments by today, blasting them for delaying SNAP benefits during the current shutdown. Judge John McConnell said millions of Americans, including families, seniors, and children, have gone without food aid for too long, calling the government's partial payments unacceptable. The order requires full November SNAP benefits totaling about $8 billion to be released immediately. The White House says it will comply even as it appeals the ruling. In that regard, here's Vice President J.D. Vance.
It's an absurd ruling because you have a federal judge effectively telling us what we have to do in the midst of a Democrat government shutdown, which what we'd like to do is for the Democrats to open up the government. Of course, then we can fund SNAP, and we can also do a lot of other good things for the American people. But in the midst of a shutdown, we can't have a federal court telling the president how he has to triage the situation.
Federal officials are making more arrests as what they're calling an alarming pattern of Chinese smuggling continues. Here's Daily Wire reporter Tim Pierce.
The Justice Department announced this week that 3 Chinese researchers at the University of Michigan were charged Wednesday in connection with a conspiracy to smuggle biological materials into the U.S. According to the Justice Department, the arrests are the latest in a long string of cases involving Chinese nationals and the university. Attorney General Pam Bondi said, quote, "Allegedly attempting to smuggle biological materials under the guise of research is a serious crime that threatens America's national and agricultural security. Each of the suspects held a J-1 visa and was conducting research at the university's Sensory Biology Research Center. The suspects allegedly tried to fly out of the country before they were apprehended by federal law enforcement."
Canada's economy is really feeling the squeeze from President Trump's sweeping tariffs and is reportedly nearing the edge of a recession. Daily Wire senior editor Joel Needler has the latest.
The United States' second-largest trading partner has seen unemployment rise to its highest non-pandemic level in nearly a decade, as Trump's duties on everything from cars to lumber ripple through key industries. Ontario and Quebec, Canada's manufacturing heartland, are feeling the pain. Stellantis has moved Jeep production from Ontario to Illinois, costing thousands of jobs, while auto parts and steel producers report plummeting exports. Prime Minister Mark Carney warned the trade war will cause, quote, permanent damage to the economy as growth forecasts tumble below 1%. Meanwhile, Ottawa is pledging nearly $200 billion in new spending to stabilize the economy, but critics say the tariffs have already reshaped North America's economic landscape for good.
Real estate insiders say housing demands have exploded in Florida after Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani's victory in New York. Daily Wire reporter Amanda Harding reports.
The anticipated mass exodus to the Sunshine State is being reported across news outlets nationwide, from local affiliates to the New York Times. Boca Raton Mayor Scott Singer told WPBF News this week, quote, Even this morning, I've gotten inbound calls of businesses looking to leave New York to come to our low-tax, safe, vibrant community. The CEO of The Real Deal, a national real estate publication, told the New York Times that the topic was all that people were talking about at a forum event Wednesday morning. Developer Isaac Toledano of Miami-based BH Group told Fox News Digital that the trend started before Mamdani won and is expected to continue.
Ford's electric F-150 Lightning may be headed for the scrapyard. As the Wall Street Journal reports, Ford executives are actively discussing scrapping the money-losing EV pickup after demand slumped. The talks follow a production pause tied to an aluminum supplier fire, with no firm restart date and a sharp October drop in Ford's overall EV sales after the federal tax credit expired. Rival car makers like Stellantis also appear to be retreating. They officially halted production of their all-electric Ram 1500 program amid shrinking demand for big EV trucks.
Vietnam is building artificial islands to challenge Chinese dominance in the South China Sea. Daily Wire assistant editor Andy Valdez has the details.
The South China Sea has long been contested by several nations, including China, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam. Vietnam has now reportedly built more than 2,000 acres of reclaimed land near the Spratly Islands. The new artificial islands are mostly intended for military use, complete with seaports, airstrips, weapons storage facilities, and defensive trenches. The move is believed to be Vietnam's attempt to protect itself against China, which already has a network of similar artificial islands across the same waters.
In sports news, history was made in Gainesville, Florida last night, and the crowd went wild. Florida's 7'9" redshirt freshman Olivier Rioux finally stepped onto the court, becoming the tallest player in college basketball history. Rioux checked in with just minutes left in Florida's blowout win over North Florida. The Canadian giant didn't score, but his debut sent the O'Connell Center into a frenzy. Coach Todd Golden said, quote, "He's worked hard, kept a great attitude. Tonight, he earned his moment." And in other sports news, sort of, Tom Brady has reportedly altered the circle of life by cloning his dog. Daily Wire reporter Lyndon Blake explains.
Tom Brady didn't just defeat teams in pursuit of his 7 Super Bowls. He's apparently defeated death by cloning his dog, Lua, who died back in 2023. With the help of Colossal Biosciences, the legendary quarterback has a new member of the pack, Junie, who looks just like Lua, and they share the same genetic makeup, but not the same personality. In a statement shared with the Daily Wire by Colossal, Brady said, quote, "A few years ago, I worked with Colossal and leveraged their non-invasive cloning technology through a simple blood draw of our family's elderly dog before she passed. In a few short months, Colossal gave my family a second chance with a clone of our beloved dog." Colossal specializes in de-extinction. The company recently acquired Viagen, which is known for cloning Paris Hilton's and Barbra Streisand's pets. Responses to the news have been a little mixed, but some are now calling for a DNA test on Patriots quarterback Drake May because he's showing some glimpses of Brady-like play for the Patriots.
Those are your drive home updates this evening. To learn more about these stories, go to dailywire.com. And in case you missed it earlier today, we covered some major stories, including President Trump ramping up pressure on lawmakers amid the record-breaking shutdown, Nancy Pelosi finally calling it quits, and Border Patrol setting new records on border crossings. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow morning with a weekend edition of Morning Wire.